All employers today have a payroll system. Soon they will also have to have a pension scheme, by law, even if they only employ one employee. That pension scheme will need to meet certain standards. It will need to be a qualifying scheme. Each employer has already been allocated a staging date. An employer's staging date is when the new pension duties apply to their business. The duties include providing a qualifying workplace pension scheme for their employees, auto-enrolling the eligible employees into the pension scheme, and paying at least the minimum required amount into their employees' pensions. Employers will be required to register with the pensions regulator so that the authorities can be sure they comply properly with their new duties. Although employers will be required by law to auto-enrol their eligible employees, no employee will be forced to stay in a workplace pension scheme. Employees who wish to may opt out. Sometimes, where employees opt out, they will be entitled to get their money back, so will the employer. At other times they will not, nor will the employer. In both cases where employees opt out, employers will be required to re-enrol them in the pension scheme. Not right away, but after a little while. The first time an employer re-enrolls an employee who has opted out, they must also re-register with the pensions regulator. That tells the regulator that the employer understands the new pension reforms. Employees who opt out and are re-enrolled may opt out again if they wish. Their employer must then re-enrol them again, not right away, but after a little while. Employees may continually opt out if they wish to. Sometimes they may get their money back, and sometimes they may not. It depends on whether or not they opt out in the opt-out window. Whenever an employee opts out, the employer must set a re-enrolment date for them and record it. In fact, employers will be required to keep detailed records of all the comings and goings of the employees on their payroll, the employees in their pension schemes, and the employees who are not in their pension scheme. These records need to be kept for a minimum period of 6 years in case the regulator needs to see them. Employers who do not keep proper records may be fined. The new pension duties do not just apply on an employer's staging date. They will apply on every day after that too, forever. When a new employee joins an employer's payroll in future, the employer will need to check whether they are eligible to be auto-enrolled into the pension scheme. There are 2 eligibility criteria. These are wage-based and age-based. If an employee is earning more than a certain amount and is older than a certain younger age and younger than a certain older age, they will be eligible for auto-enrolment. If they are eligible, the employer will have a duty to auto-enrol them into their pension scheme and to pay money in for them. The employee, of course, does not have to stay in the scheme. They may opt out. But the employer must be careful not to encourage opting out. Neither must employers offer inducements to employees to opt out. It is a breach of the regulations to do so. Employers may be fined if they breach the regulations. Employees who are not eligible to be auto-enrolled may voluntarily join the pension scheme if they wish. Some non-eligible employees who choose to join voluntarily will be entitled to contributions from the employer. They must be told this, and records must be kept to demonstrate that they were told. Other non-eligible employees who choose to join voluntarily will not be entitled to contributions from the employer. But that does not mean that the employer cannot contribute if they wish to. Some non-eligible employees will not join the pension scheme on a voluntary basis. Where employers have one or more employees who are not eligible for auto-enrolment, they must continually check their eligibility status in case things have changed. A non-eligible employee may become eligible because they became older, or they may become eligible because they earn more, or they may become eligible because the pension laws governing auto-enrolment have changed. Pension legislation changes all the time. Employers will need to keep abreast of changes. Where previously non-eligible employees become eligible, the employer has a duty to auto-enroll them into the pension scheme. The employee may stay in the scheme or they may opt out. If they opt out, the employer must re-enroll them after a certain time. The cycle thus continues, and employers must ensure they keep detailed records of what happens in each employee's case. By plugging into an employer's payroll system, manage the auto-enrolment process for employers and keep all the records required.